Spoiler alert, this ending might surprise you. Hi, I'm Laura Kumin, author of All Stirred Up, Suffrage Cookbooks, Food, and the Battle for Women's Right to Vote. The suffrage battle lasted for decades, and it was a nail-biter right up until the very end.
During most of the time, from the Seneca Falls Convention right up until the last few years of the battle, there was disagreement within the suffrage movement as to whether it was better to get each state to act on its own to guarantee women voting rights, or whether the movement should attempt to pass a federal constitutional amendment for that purpose. In the final stage of the battle, the entire suffrage movement got behind the push for the constitutional amendment to guarantee women voting rights. The Constitution requires that both houses of Congress pass an amendment by a 2/3 vote, and then 3/4 of the states must ratify it before the proposed amendment takes effect. It took a number of tries before the required congressional votes happened. When they did, in 1919, the ratification process began. At the time, there were 48 states, so 36 states had to ratify the 19th Amendment. The ratification process meant that suffragists had to get state legislatures in 36 states to ratify. The lobbying on both sides was intense. By March 1920, 35 states had ratified. 7 states, all in the South, had rejected the amendment. Only one more state was needed to move the amendment to ratification, but it stalled. Then, in mid-August 1920, the Tennessee legislature took up the 19th Amendment. The vote came down to a single legislator, a young man named Harry Byrne. Forces pulled him this way and that. His mentor was an auntie, and he thought his constituents were too. But his mother, Feb Emsminger Byrne of Nyota, Tennessee, wrote her son a letter that he carried wrinkled up in his pocket as he entered the legislature that day to cast his vote. She wrote,
"Dear son, hurrah and vote for suffrage. Don't keep them in doubt. I've been waiting to see how you stood, but have not seen anything yet. Don't forget to be a good boy and help Mrs. Cat. With lots of love, Mama."
Harry, 24 years old, followed her instructions. He cast the deciding vote that gave the 19th Amendment the last state it needed for ratification. It would be nice if that was the end of the story, but it's not. To find out how the opponents of women's suffrage kept fighting to deny women the vote, read All Stirred Up.
And don't forget, the best way to celebrate suffrage is to vote every chance you get.